Hey, everybody. Today is Monday, March the 26th, and this is Prime News. I'm your anchor, Trezene, the editor of FCN1, all things news, business, and politics. And I've got quite a few stories for y'all today, but most of them make me just wonder, how in the world do we handle the First Amendment so flexibly, yet the Second Amendment is so daggone rigid? That's what I got for you tonight. Jayco is here with me in the studio. He is over Prime Sports. Jayco, let people know what kind of sports stories you have for them tonight.
Hey everybody, Jayco. I got some NCAA basketball. Yeah, Final Four, baby. Yeah. Did that seem exciting? No, I'm not excited. I got some baseball news. I'm definitely excited about that. Opening day is right around the corner. A little bit about Howie Manziel. Or Johnny Manziel, whatever that guy's name is. So yeah, it's football related. They convinced me to talk about football just a little bit. But for now, we're going to go back to your Prime News stories. Sports are coming up later.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear those news stories on tonight from Jayco. For those who may be new to the program, we are live from Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So welcome everybody. Prime News is the flagship program of the Fifth Column Network, and you can find out all about us at thefifthcolumnnetwork.com. We are on Facebook and YouTube at /The Fifth Column Network. And Prime News is on Instagram and Twitter at FCN_1, which is home of news, business, and politics. And Prime Sports is on FCN_2 at both Instagram and Twitter as well, which is home of sports, stats, and all the arguments. Make sure to share this broadcast with your followers, and don't forget to comment, because Jayco and I will be reading and talking about those at the end of the broadcast. For our first story tonight, the city of Sacramento is on the defense after Sacramento police fatally shot an unarmed black man, Stephen Clark, in his own backyard. Responding to reports of a break-in, police fired at least 20 gunshots at Clark, age 22, blaming the victim for the shooting by saying they thought that the cell phone in his hand was a weapon. The Sacramento PD has released the body cam footage of the incident. Be safe if you're on social media. It does contain a graphic warning. Police say that while looking for a suspect breaking into cars, a police helicopter spotted a man in a backyard with tools in hand. Officers allegedly gave Clark commands to stop and show his hands. Clark's grandfather, who was home at the time of the shooting, says that he heard his grandson in the backyard calling out for him, but at no time heard any commands from officers. In the video, you can see Clark run towards the back door of the home. He was shot 4 times in his back. They fired a total of 20 shots at him. Clark lived with his grandparents and his siblings. Both his grandparents were in the home at the time of the shooting. His grandmother said she heard gunshots and got on the ground along with her 7-year-old granddaughter. It's another case of being at the wrong place at the wrong time in your own backyard. Protests are happening all over Sacramento, and the family held a press conference earlier this afternoon Eastern Time. Clark's grandmother spoke at the news conference alongside prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who will be representing the Clark family. Crump has represented families in other controversial police shootings, including the families of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and Tamir Rice. Condolences to the Clark family. In Ohio, police have arrested 2 women during an undercover sex sting. You know how it goes. It's a classic textbook tutorial of how to catch a prostitute. An officer contacted a number listed online that police say advertised escort services. During their conversation, police said a woman agreed to sex for hire and said it would cost $300 for her and her friend. Yes, the her and her friend I referred to are the ladies pictured behind me. You heard me. A whole $300 for a good time with these ladies. Their names are Erica Kent, 41, and Kelly Ketterer, 37, and they were immediately arrested when they arrived to meet their undercover John. Ketterer had a crack pipe full of crack residue and condoms in her purse. Kent had a methadone alternative drug that was on her person, which is a highly addictive and controlled substance without a prescription. Ketterer has been charged with soliciting sex, possession of criminal tools, and drug paraphernalia. Kent has been charged with soliciting sex and possession of a Schedule III controlled substance, and I'm being charged with doing life wrong if this lady, so beautifully pictured behind me, are charging $300 for sex. Speaking of doing life wrong, 2 parents out of Pennsylvania have been convicted for allowing their daughter to die because they wanted God, not doctors, to heal the dying 2-year-old girl. Ella Grace Foster was 2 years old when she died of pneumonia in November 2016, and her parents, Jonathan and Grace Ann Foster, were found guilty last Friday in a jury trial for involuntary manslaughter and endangering the welfare of a child. Prosecutors say that they are still deciding on the parents' recommended punishment. The involuntary manslaughter charge is usually a misdemeanor in Pennsylvania, but prosecutors decided to bump it up to a second-degree felony because the perps were the victim's parents and that convicting them could result in up to 10 years behind bars now. So here's what happened. The couple told cops that they belonged to the Faith Tabernacle Church and didn't believe in seeking medical treatment. They attributed their daughter's death to God's will, and medical experts, though, later testified that if the little girl had gone and gotten medical attention, she would have lived. The couple has since lost custody of their other 6 children. The pastor of the church the couple attended, who was also the child's paternal grandfather, has been charged too for failing in his capacity as clergy to report suspected child abuse, as he was called to the home to anoint the child's head with oil so that she could be healed. If you're wondering what church this is, it is part of a Christian fundamentalist sect that adheres to the belief that the Bible only allows spiritual cures such as prayer for illnesses. I find this story peculiar in that the First Amendment freedom of religion is put on pause when a child is refused medical treatment and dies as the result of a parent abusing their religious rights. Yet the Second Amendment continues to trump children's lives when folks abuse their gun rights. Speaking of gun rights, the March for Our Lives gun control rally happened this past weekend and featured speeches from minority students rallying together to vote out those who cater to gun lobbyists. 3 speakers were of note here on Prime News. One is Naomi Wadler, age 11, from Alexandria, Virginia. She was standing for all the Black women killed by gun violence who don't get mainstream news coverage. Another notable was Yolanda Renee King, the granddaughter of Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, who said she was standing for the dream she has that enough is enough. And lastly, there's Emma Gonzalez, who we all recognize as a survivor of the Parkland shooting with her bold, shaven head, who was also a featured speaker and included within her speech a 4-minute moment of silence. Check out this video clip of the young people on the mic.
My brother, he was in high school when he passed away. Ricardo was his name. Can y'all say it with me? I am here today to represent Cortland Arrington. I am here today to represent Hadia Pendleton. I am here today to acknowledge and represent the African American girls whose stories don't make the front page of every national newspaper.
6 minutes and 20 seconds with an AR-15, and my friend Carmen would never complain to me about piano practice.
We deserve safer schools, safer classrooms, safer streets, and a safer place for us to learn and survive.
If teachers start packing heat, are they going to harm our pastors, ministers, and rabbis?
When will we as a nation understand that nonviolence is the way of life for courageous people?
My brother, he was in high school when he passed away. Ricardo was his name. Can y'all say it with me? I am here today to represent Cortland Arrington. I am here today to represent Hadia Pendleton. I am here today to acknowledge and represent the African American girls whose stories don't make the front page of every national newspaper.
6 minutes and 20 seconds with an AR-15, and my friend Carmen would never complain to me about piano practice.
We deserve safer schools, safer classrooms, safer streets, and a safer place for us to
Go
learn
ahead,
and survive.
All right, the purpose of the rally was overwhelmingly, it seemed to be aimed at getting young people in the mindset to be involved in the political process any way that they can to position their communities to vote out those who are catering to gun lobbyists and get those compassionate to their cause in office. Effecting a change in the legislature is key to this issue. I'd like to feature a tweet I read that so greatly captures the legislative hurdle. Twitter user at one Jedi_Ray said, in just 6 minutes, These lives were all lost and many survivors were changed forever. She said, if you think that 4-minute silence was an eternity, know that it takes an average of 264 days for a bill to be enacted into law through Congress. The March for Our Lives was one of the biggest youth protests since Vietnam. At least 1.2 million people marched this past weekend at events across the United States, and the count is still tentative as researchers estimate that there were more than 450 marches in the nation. But they only have crowd estimates for about half of them. The biggest march, which was in Washington, D.C., drew anywhere from 200,000 to 800,000 people, with the former number published by a private firm and the latter number published by march organizers. The higher estimate would make the March for Our Lives the largest single-day protest in the history of the nation's capital, but the private firm, Digital Design and Imaging Services, estimates that it was smaller than the first Women's March in 2017, which by its count drew 440,000 people. Many artists made appearances at the March for Our Lives rally, like Paul McCartney, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Demi Lovato, and Andra Day. But while they were there, Killer Mike was on the internet explaining his support of ownership in gun ownership in an interview on NRA TV and gun advocacy organization. Check out this clip from the interview.
But this idea that because I'm a gun owner, or I'm hardcore about the Second Amendment, or you know, from that perspective, it's like that doesn't mean that I lack the empathy or the ability to sympathize.
Not
with
at all.
what happened.
That's not
if anything, it's quite the opposite. Yeah. It's like we disagree about how we both want to save these kids' lives.
Yeah.
Period. But somehow, because my method doesn't agree with your method, I'm a monster.
Yeah.
Or something wrong.
And that's
with
unfair.
It, you know what I mean?
I have worked as a tireless advocate on the behalf of children, disenfranchised women in my community. Yeah. And I've also worked with gun groups like Georgians Against Gun Violence that are not, you know, the most pro Second Amendment. But I say if there's a table to be sat at, the gun owner needs to be there. So I kind of try to see a problem from the whole perspective. And there have been things that you've disagreed with me. There's been that I disagree with you. As friends, we've talked, right? But there was something dead on that the woman who's an NRA spokesman said, and everyone just kind of lost it. What's her name? Dana. Dana said something. I don't agree with everything Dana says, but Dana says that the tears of white mothers are like ratings, and that's so true. And it was so sad to hear her acknowledge it. Yeah. But it's true, and black people know it's true because black people say it in conversations in coffee houses to themselves.
There's a lot of people who think they woke out here will realize very quickly they ain't so woke.
You not woke. You not woke. Nah. Wakanda, everybody had guns and spears and everything else you needed. Yeah, like you can't continue to be the lackey. Yeah. Like people are accusing you of being a lackey of the NRA. Well, you're a lackey of the progressive movement.
By Sunday evening, following an online outcry from fans and gun control advocates, Killer Mike issued an apology for his appearance on the show and said the NRA misused it as a weapon against Saturday's marches. Mike added that his appearance was intended to focus on gun ownership by Black Americans. Since the release of his 2012 breakout solo album, R.I.P. Music, Killer Mike has become known for his political engagement, including support of Bernie Sanders in the last presidential election and fairly nuanced dissections of institutionalized racism in his work. But the rapper born Michael Render has never been one to turn his cheek away from unpopular opinion, equating President Bush and Obama to talking heads telling lies on teleprompters. Killer Mike's interview was indeed sponsored by a gun manufacturer called Mossberg. Speaking of voting, elections, lobbying, and such, are you guys familiar with the rise of all those personality quizzes on Facebook? You know, those find out what animal you were in the past life, or what's your personality's color? Or how about, did you notice that leading up to the 2016 presidential elections, there seemed to be a news story every day about police brutality and Black Lives Matter protests, and that once the election was over, it seemed to stop? And now it's picking back up again? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the work of Cambridge Analytica. No doubt by now, you've heard all about the company that's come under fire, and you may have heard that the Trump campaign paid the data firm more than $5.8 million for data management during the 2016 election cycle, according to the Federal Election Commission records. This data management is basically every time you took one of those quizzes, granting the quiz app access to your profile, you were unknowingly also granting the app access to your friends' and followers' profiles and their news feeds. They were downloading all the information about you and them, all without your permission or knowledge, and then using it to feed their campaigns everything they need to then in turn feed you news, fake or real, to get you to go down a rabbit hole of stories and articles of similar topics and viewpoints to influence your vote. Yes, this includes all the Black Lives Matter and police brutality stories and articles. The Mueller investigation is looking into Russian collusion now, looking through the relationship between Trump's campaign and the Republican National Committee and Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica is also under investigation by British officials for its use of Facebook's users' data. Facebook, which does make its money off selling its users' data with permissions granted, it is currently on an apology tour for failing to protect and respect the privacies of its users. I don't know about you, but I'm hella guilty for taking those damn quizzes. If you want to know what data Facebook has on you and has been selling to companies, visit your settings page, click on the option to download a copy of your data. It's at the bottom of your general account section. It can take up to 10 to 20 minutes to download, but the data that you will get will be segmented into groups like ads, contact info, events, messages, timeline, and more. One reporter said that she was stunned at all the information that it had. It even had the phone number of her late grandmother who had never had a Facebook account or even an email address. She said it preserved the conversations she had with an ex, someone she had thought she had deleted all digital ties to. She said it even recalled the number of times she was poked, a feature many of us have forgotten about. She said she also learned which companies have her on their advertisers list. She said she also realized Facebook had preserved conversations that she's had with people, regardless of whether she blocked them or unfriended them, and that her contact info section read like a Rolodex of every single person she's ever put in any single mobile phone. So I guess the only remaining question is, when are we all getting off Facebook? All right, I'm going to switch gears here and talk about some less depressing things. Let's start with Hannibal Buress, the man famously known for kicking off renewed interest into the alleged sexual misconduct of Bill Cosby. Well, the comedian was kicked off stage recently for joking about priests molesting kids while on stage at a Jesuit college. According to news reports, before performing at Chicago's Loyola University, Hannibal Buress received an email from the university dictating what material and subject matter was off limits. Aside from profanity, the college informed the comedian that he should not talk about a number of topics, including race, illegal drug use, or sexual assault. This ninja got to the venue, opened up his set by reading that email, called the administration bitch-ass old people, and projected an image of the email onto the venue's projection screen. He then turned to the audience full of Jesuit students and said, "Y'all fuck kids, right?" I'm just repeating what he said. They immediately cut off his mic and escorted him off the stage. He had only given the audience 5 minutes of material. I find it funny that people can be so pro-Me Too and Time's Up, but when you have a comedian calling people out for sexual assault, they get him off stage. Which makes me think that the First Amendment's right to free speech can even be put on pause if children are involved, but not if the church is involved too. I think I'm not sure. In happy news though, Fox Searchlight has closed a deal to develop film on the life and work of Alvin Ailey with Alicia Keys as one of its producers. Even better, Fox Searchlight has received full support from the Alvin Ailey organization to produce this work, which is critical as the organization holds rights to the choreography and the rights to Jennifer Dunning's biography, Alvin Ailey, A Life in Dance, on which the film will be based. It isn't entirely known what type of project it would be, whether it be documentary style or scripted film, but what we do know is that Fox Searchlight will work directly with the Alvin Ailey's organization's renowned artistic directors, and it will involve several producers, which includes Alicia Keys. Alvin Ailey was an African-American choreographer and activist who founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in New York City. He is credited with popularizing modern dance and revolutionizing African-American participation in the 20th century concert dance. He died in 1989 at the age of 58 from complications of HIV and AIDS. My only thought is, Alicia ain't gonna be singing, is she? In other news, I know that was a bad joke. So let me share a feel-good story with y'all about the organic eating lifestyle. Eating organic is something that we are all hearing more and more about nowadays. And while many would love to eat organic foods because it has been proven to be better for them, their pockets do not always agree. But a 21-year-old black woman has opened up a vegan restaurant that will not break the bank. Francesca Soul Chaney opened Soul Sips, a vegan restaurant in Brooklyn, New York, that touts low prices for high-quality juices, wraps, salads, and other healthy items. Chaney said she was inspired to open the spot because of what she calls a very classist wellness community. This means that when you walk into Soul Sips, you won't see outrageous prices for a smoothie, no $20 and upwards charge for some lettuce either. Chaney makes it clear that she's bringing true accessibility to her community. With the mission to make wellness truly accessible, especially for low-income areas, the restaurant is offering a monthly sliding scale for brunch between $7 and $15. She is planning to integrate a farm-to-table component to her restaurant, as well as an internship for brown girls who want to be in the wellness industry as well. Congratulations to her for the opening of her restaurant. In LGBTQ news, a school principal who came out as transgender to staff and parents at her school is not having her contract renewed. Principal Shannon Daniel, who identifies as gender fluid, worked at Stanley Elementary School in Swampscott, about 15 miles north of Boston, Massachusetts. In February, she came out in an open letter addressed to staff and parents of the pupils, to which the school superintendent did indeed praise her for her courage, honesty, and transparency. But following a meeting between faculty and parents on the 1st of March, Stanley Elementary parents and board members took a vote of no confidence against the principal. The school now says that the decision was performance related and placed her on administrative leave until the end of the school year on June the 30th. She has confirmed that Daniel's contract would not be renewed. I hate to say it, but don't ask, don't tell may not be a great government policy, but discretion has never been a poor skill to possess in navigating life. Best wishes to that principal. And in my last story, breaking news on this evening, Linda Brown, the young girl at the center of the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court case, passed away today at the age of 76. Brown's sister, Cheryl Brown Henderson, confirmed the death to Topeka Capital Journal. Peaceful Rest Funeral Chapel of Topeka independently confirmed her death as well with the Huffington Post. I quote, 64 years ago, a young girl from Topeka brought a case that ended segregation in public schools in America, says the Kansas Governor Jeff Colyer as he tweeted today. He continued to say, Linda Brown's life reminds us that sometimes the most unlikely people can have an incredible impact, and that by serving our community, we can truly change the world. It was Brown's father, Reverend Oliver Brown, who sued the Topeka School Board to allow his daughter the right to attend an all-white school in the Kansas City capital. 4 other school segregation cases were combined with Brown's to be heard by the Supreme Court, but the justices' unanimous ruling was named for Brown. Brown, who was also known as Linda Carroll Thompson after her marriage in the mid-1990s, was forced to attend an all-black school far from her home, although an all-white school was only blocks away. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously in favor of Brown, as we all know. In its ruling, the court overturned the 1896 separate but equal ruling from Plessy versus Ferguson, marking the case one of the biggest legal victories of the civil rights era. It was due to Brown versus Board of Education that the federal government could force states to integrate schools, allowing children of color an equal education to white children. With that, I'm going to kick it over to the sports set where J. Cole was waiting to give you guys all of his sports stories for this evening. Take it away, J. Cole.
Hey everybody, it's J. Cole. You can follow me at JCoeIsIt, and I bring you tonight's stories from a perspective that isn't yours. In our top story tonight, the NCAA Final Four. Road to the Final Four. It's all that matters in this March Madness, and we are finally there. It was decided this weekend. On one side, we have 2 #1 seeds in Villanova and Kansas. And on the other side, we have 11th seed Cinderella Loyola Chicago Interestingly enough, I think Hannibal Buress was just there. Facing the team voted most likely to have their wins vacated, number 3, Michigan. Have fun with that. Yeah. Can somebody tell me what happens when the game's over? Because I really don't think I'm watching. I'm not interested this year. And, you know, college basketball, as I have stated on previous Prime News and True Baller Thursday, it's not really that interesting, but this year has been just even more uninteresting, and I will bet anything next week when I come in Prime News that the ratings will be down. You watch, it's going to happen. I'm calling it here. Ratings are going to be down on the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Yeah, but it is what it is. However, on the women's side, tonight, the Final Four will be decided. There's already 2 teams that have made it, Mississippi State and the team who is not going to be banned this year for hiring prostitutes for its players, the Louisville women's team. How about that? Spoiler alert, Connecticut is going to make it to the Final Four. They're playing tonight, and they'll probably win the whole thing. So, you know, women's Final Four. Yay. All right, and on to our next story. So this weekend, it was snowing pretty badly where I was, and I was stuck in the house all day Saturday, and I decided to catch up on some movies. And I did not see, when it came out, 42, the Jackie Robinson story about the historical baseball player Jackie Robinson who broke the color line in the major leagues. Jackie Robinson was played by Chadwick Snoozman. He did pretty good. It was his character in here had way more character than in Black Panther, but I digress. As watching this historical movie about breaking the color line, about, you know, overcoming the barriers that are put in place for African Americans, it really got me to thinking about the game of baseball, and really about how it is a metaphor for this country in general. Baseball is always so late at coming around to things. I think baseball is a good analogy for what America would like to be. Integration on baseball was forced. I'm not sure, when was the Brown versus Board of Education? 1954. Okay, well, baseball integration did come earlier than that. So, but it's always forced heavily onto the baseball culture. When Jackie Robinson made it into the playoffs, the other character, Branch Rickey, who was famous because he pushed so hard for black players to come in, played by a crotchety old Harrison Ford. He did okay. He was really, in the movie stated, he said, I want to bring black players because they're great baseball players and they're going to help me win a World Series. So here we go. The real motivation behind this is not because we want to break the color line, it's because black people can help us. So in that vein, Jim Thome, who was, yes, a white person, used to play for the Cleveland Indians. Former first baseman, he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. Now, what's significant about this, he refused to have his Hall of Fame plaque be made with the offensive Indians logo on it. According to the Baseball Hall of Fame, all future Indians inductees will now have the Block C, which stands for Cleveland, displayed on their plaque. No word if the team will actually change its name. Here's a statement from the Hall of Fame. When Jim Thome's Hall of Fame plaque is unveiled in July, it will feature the Block C logo as opposed to the, quote, Chief Wahoo, that name, logo that Cleveland Indians have displayed on team caps in many seasons since introduction in 1947. In January, Major League Baseball announced that Indians will remove the Chief Wahoo logo from uniforms after the 2018 season, deeming it no longer appropriate for on-field use. 2018, it took them to remove this logo. As MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred explained, Major League Baseball is committed to building a culture of diversity and inclusion throughout the game. The National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum concurs with the Commissioner's sentiment and acknowledges the shifting societal view of Native American logos in baseball. Although these examples of Chief Wahoo logo can be found in the museum exhibits, and on early wins in 1972 Hall of Fame plaque, the Hall of Fame will no longer use the logo in creation of new plaques. So again, small victories, a little too late, but I do commend Jim Thome for taking a stand on this. I always loved his swing. He had a pretty sweet swing. But continuing on in the baseball vein, because again, this is my favorite sport, but I fit into the perfect demographic of baseball, which is white man between 30 and 56, right? I am their guy. They're marketing to me and my father, actually. So it's probably up to 70 something, but anyway. As of 2016, the last statistics taken, baseball has the lowest percentage of African Americans since 1957, which was 10 years after Jackie Robinson played his first major league game. Now, to be fair, the Latino population is around 27%, but baseball seems to accurately reflect the attitude of this country towards minorities. That is to say, we will let you in as long as you can help us, but if you ain't doing anything for us, you're out. The other interesting thing about 42 that one of the points that they drove home through the attitudes of the player was, you know, they're going to take over baseball. And they were so scared that black people were going to take over baseball. And it never happened. 60% is the lowest white population baseball has ever had. What was all the fear? White people hating black people. Simple as that. Sometimes it's really not anything deep. On to my next story. Speaking of white people. So I did talk about Johnny Manziel yesterday on our Sunday's edition, and I actually gave him some credit. I praised him a little bit. I'm not going to read all of his statements, but a few days ago, Manziel came out with a series of tweets saying, hey, you know, there are people that are comparing me to Kaepernick because I'm not able to get a job in the NFL, and these are the reasons why Kaepernick is a better person than me, why his situation is nowhere near me. I illustrated this through all the shenanigans that Manziel has gone through and, beating his girlfriend, taking him 2 years to get kicked out of the league when all Kaepernick did was kneel. But in researching this story and trying to find out a little more information, now maybe I missed something. I will acknowledge I can't scour all news clips from all the internet, but I'm a pretty decent researcher. And what I did not find in any of my research was any one person or pundit saying that the Kaepernick situation is comparable to the Manziel situation. So it occurs to me that Johnny actually manufactured this situation as a PR scam in order to up his credibility and repair his image. Now, if you have seen anybody saying that these two situations are different, please let me know. Until I see that, I call bullshit on Honky Manziel. Again, trying to play off the backs of a black person to elevate your situation. So, shame on you, Johnny. And it was very, very suspicious to me because Johnny just doesn't seem like that kind of guy. Somebody wrote those tweets for him. He hired a PR person, guaranteed. And in my final story, I actually don't have much of a news story, but I just wanted to highlight Zeke Upshaw. Zeke Upshaw was a player for the Grand Rapids Drive. They're a D-League team for the Detroit Pistons. Unfortunately, Upshaw collapsed on court the other day. His mother did send out a tweet and a message saying that he unfortunately did not survive. I don't have the details on Upshaw. I really kind of don't know what position he played. I don't know how long he's been in the D-League. But I thought I would highlight this because I saw this tweet come across my timeline today, because he's not a superstar. He's not going to be on ESPN. He's not going to be all over media outlets letting everyone know that this young man, he was only 26 years old, passed away. If you look at his face in this image, you can see that, I don't know what the rest of his life looked like, but on that basketball court, he at least had a little bit of joy. So I just wanted to say rest in peace to Zeke Upshaw. I wanted to highlight him and let everyone know that we have lost another human being on this earth. And to mourn that, I think we should mourn all losses. So I pray for his family and his friends. They can get through this tough time, and hope that they are able to receive some sort of comfort and you know, be able to move on from this tragedy. So goodbye, Zeke. I salute you. That is all I have for tonight's sports stories. Do we have any comments, Trey?
You do have some comments.
Oh, I have some comments?
Yeah, you do. So, you know how you opened up talking about watching movies on Saturday because it was snowing?
Yeah.
And Baba Rob said, that is Jaco about to do the weather? Listen. Baba Rob, one day we will have somebody doing some weather.
We have plans on weather, but I will not be the weather person.
Oh, shoot. He mentioned your story about researching with regard to Manziel. He said, you missed nothing, Sir Jaco. You are researching Meister? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, he made it up, man. I'm like, wait a minute. This is way too suspicious.
Which, hey, that's why I clapped. I commend him. Like, okay, I see you trying to work on people. Like, you know.
We'll see. We'll see if it works, because he got a lot of image to rebuild, boy.
Like, you need to pay your PR people more. You got more to do. Okay, let's see. Oh, Chadwick. How many black icons is he going to play?
Hey, he get the roles, man. He had Thurgood Marshall. He had Jackie Robinson.
He had James Brown.
James Brown.
T'Challa. Like, you just keep going.
Rumor mill on the street is that he is up for Harriet Tubman.
And on that note, do we have any more comments?
We do. Oh my God. Okay. Baba Rob commenting on the Cambridge Analytica story, saying the Facebook issue should be no surprise. It is still shocking. I never take those quizzes, and I'm glad to know that my years of paranoia have been justified.
Seriously.
You know, and I feel like such a layman and idiot going, I want to know what animal I am.
Because every time I click on one, they say, hey, give us an exit, exit, exit.
My dumb. I'll be downloading my information over the weekend to see what's in there.
I'm scrubbing, man. I'm new Facebook me.
New Facebook
Only because we broadcast on Facebook and I need access. I'm done with Facebook.
He made a comment too on the March for Our Lives that the brothers and sisters really held it down on the Saturday for all the black lives that have been lost. I agree with you a lot on that, Baba Rob. The number of kids who were up there exhibiting great oration skills, it was very impressive.
I was impressed that they put that many black people on the stage, because when it started, I was like, oh, here we go. They did a good job.
They did. I'm actually very hopeful to see what they do as young people. You know, you're talking about young people, other than the ones who were in elementary school and middle school, but those in high school, you know, who have a short time period before they're eligible to vote. I do want to see how they keep that momentum before it's time for them to start putting people out and putting people in. We'll see about that. I think we have one other comment.
I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about Harriet Tubman.
I think a graphic should be
I'll watch that movie.
With a film poster with Chadwick Boseman starring as Harriet Tubman. That is funny. Let's see. Oh, a comment about Stephen Clark, the man who was shot unarmed, said shot in his backyard with a cell phone in his hand. Wait, he was shot in his back. That was the first time I've heard that news. This is why you have to watch Prime News. Thank you very much, Papa Rob.
And I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that he was literally running towards the house. They shot him while he was running for in the back. So, yeah, those are pretty much the comments we have today. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Prime News, Prime Sports. Tomorrow is Tuesday, so you know we'll have the Black Lightning pregame show hosted by the Revolution. Wednesday we'll have the Woo Show which is all your weekly recap of WWE, MMA, UFC, and indie wrestling, hosted by Hulk A-Tone. Following that will be the final episode of the American Crime Story Assassination of Gianni Versace pregame show, hosted by moi. And then Thursday, Prime News will be back at 7 p.m., followed by the Thursday Wind Down with Starla K. Mathis, and True Baller Thursday with J. Cole and the Reggie Mathis. And then Friday, for those who don't know, is our Fri-Fi night. We give you guys a horrible sci-fi film to watch at 10 p.m. every Friday on our Facebook page and our website, thefifthcolumnnetwork.com. We thank you guys for watching so much. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you all next time.